Vietnam looks set to confirm a widening trade surplus, with latest estimates putting the amount at $9.9 billion for 2019 compared to the $7.2 billion recorded the year before. Initial numbers show exports up more than 8% to more than $260 billion, with imports up 7% to more than $250 billion. Smartphones and garments amongst the country's largest income earners, while fabrics and electronics were its major imports. Now, Vietnam clearly a manufacturing powerhouse, with its industry and construction sector accounting for 34% of its economy. Now, for more on this, let's cross over to Tung No, and he's speaking to us from Hanoi. So, Tung, Vietnam's economy is still doing rather well, even with global trade slowing down. So, will this actually continue into 2020?
The Vietnam economy will continue this remarkable momentum into 2020, but its growth is expected to slow a bit next year. And the reason is Vietnam's economic growth is largely propelled by foreign investment and export-oriented manufacturing. But the weakening global demand and the U.S.-China trade war would undermine Vietnam's export momentum. And as you mentioned, figures in the recent months have showed that the export of the foreign investment sector have been slowed down in recent months. As you mentioned, for example, smartphones among Vietnam's top export earners, mostly made by South Korea, Samsung Electronics. Its export in November increased by 2% compared to 16% in the same period last year. And here, the economy here is facing certain bottlenecks as well, such as logistics, limited infrastructure conditions, and rising labor costs, and a shortage of high-skilled workers. So these are the challenges that are expected to continue to be played out in 2020.
Well, Vietnam obviously benefited from the Sino-US trade war, but this is not going to last forever.
Experts believe that Vietnam can benefit from the US and China trade war, but only in the short term. In long term, some experts told me that Vietnam is among the most vulnerable countries to the trade war because of its dependence on exports. And the biggest risk of the trade war is the slowdown in the global economy. And Vietnam economy is largely dependent on export and would be highly susceptible to such a slowdown. And Vietnam trade surplus, mounting trade surplus with the US currently standing at more than $46 billion, put Vietnam on the watch list of US trade policy makers. And experts I talked to do not rule out the possibility of the US imposing tariffs on Vietnam exports. So policymakers here, in response to these challenges, they are trying to continue to reform its economy, strengthen its domestic sectors, strengthening domestic demand, and at the same time continue to expand the export market by signing new free trade agreements.
All right, thanks for the update. Tung No speaking to us from Hanoi.